I guess this is the most awkward part of a webinar where, we have to all stare at each other's faces waiting for people to arrive. So when you're sitting in an actual room, it makes things much better. But then you have to sit and stare at each other's faces. Okay, now what's going to happen? This is where things just get a bit tricky. I guess we can start with introducing ourselves. Let's go with Jason. Jason, you joined us first.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jason. I'm currently studying Bachelor of Engineering in Mechatronics at Curtin University in Australia. So I'm doing the call from Australia here.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for joining us. I
Yes.
hope you get what you want from the session.
Hopefully, I got referred through someone who actually used to join soft seminars from you guys. So, don't know if you know, her name is Sakshi Bardeva.
Yes, Sakshi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
So,
used to do a lot of one-on-one sessions, and right now she's landed a job.
yeah.
So yeah, and something about webinars, right? To be honest, I hate webinars. Yeah, I'll be very honest with you. And webinars are the worst because that sense of engagement is not there because we're in that same physical proximity with each other. Where I guess a big part of this build it in a day webinar that we're creating, I could at least see your CVs, give your live feedback, and see how different situations can apply to you because what works for you probably doesn't work for someone else, right? And today is the first day of Ramadan, and this was the only way we could see this work. And thank you, Jason, because of this webinar, we were able to reach out to you all the way in Australia, and that's probably a good thing. So I'm going to try to be a little more positive about webinars, and we're going to try to have as much fun as we can, especially when the topic is as boring as ATS and CV, right? Next, Marshall, you came in next. I know you, Marshall, but I'd still like you to introduce yourself to the rest.
Sure, no worries. Hi, can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yes, we can hear you
Sorry,
clear.
I just stopped at a cafe, so it's kind of noisy. Please ignore that. My name is Marshall Daniel. I currently work in a 360 marketing agency as an account manager. So the main reason why I'm here in this session is kind of like to get a proper understanding of what an ATS-friendly CV is, because there are a lot of things that I saw online, a lot of different needs that applies to APS. So here, just here to basically understand what is the correct term. And I've even made something of my own, which I picked up from the internet, but I just want like proper clarity on what exactly. Yeah.
So, can you tell us what you picked up from the internet? So then I want to make sure
Uh,
that what you picked up from the internet, I don't discuss that. So let's.
okay, okay. Cool. Firstly, in terms of the formatting, the main thing that I found was everything should be within the horizontal frame, like the two-column design, which was kind of overused a couple of years ago before ATS ever came into the picture. That does not work because basically the AI kind of reads it as one line. So if I have, let's say on the left-hand side, skills, and then on the right-hand side, my experiences, it's going to read all in one continuation. So that will mess up the way that AI reads your CV. The second thing I've heard recently is you don't need to have a profile picture. You don't need to have so many colors on your CV. Design should be very minimalistic, and a lot of the words that you choose should words that you write in your CV should have keywords. Like if you want to talk about teamwork, or if you want to talk about you have a specific skills in paid ads, always mention those keywords within your CV because that's how the AI kind of filters out the CV. And yeah, keep it one page is another thing. And yeah, that's basically what I picked up on.
Okay, thank you, Marshall, for giving us the basics that we need on ATS. So then I guess we can call it a day.
No, Alistair, I want to learn more. I want to learn the exact thing. I don't believe everything I see on the internet.
Yeah, because I'm. This is definitely I'll go around the table to for other than Marshall said in the next introduction. I guess we can go with Alia. Hey, Alia, if you'd like to introduce yourself and also tell me, other than what Marshall has mentioned, what do you know about ATS? Because I'm sure everyone would have watched reels on ATS, would have
Yeah.
probably Googled something, would have definitely watched a few YouTube videos. And I just want to make sure that if everyone knows the basics of ATS, I don't want to be covering basics, right? We probably need to tackle, okay, how do we get it right? And what is the fastest way to do it? So tomorrow, even if you're using, say, ChatGPT to make our CV, what is the best way to use ChatGPT to do it? And then I'll probably skip some of the slides that I have for the sake of the audience, right? The last thing you'll want, uh, me investing your time in a webinar for 1 hour and receiving the same information that you'll got from YouTube. Fair enough, because y'all can do that anytime. I can send y'all a set of YouTube links, watch that video, and then we probably don't need to be here. So Alia, over to you.
All right. So, hi guys. My name is Alia Fatma. I graduated in 2023, and currently I'm working part-time with the British Council. I'm looking for something more permanent, and I have been struggling, so I figured this was a good way to see if there's anything I could work on. And like Marshall said, yeah, I have seen about ATS, but honestly, it's all over the place. It's all conflicting information, so I just watch it and move past it. But I have seen that you need to keep the design minimal. So I was trying to see if there's a way to still make your CV look appealing, but following the ATS guidelines so that you don't get ignored or sidetracked.
Right. Can you, since you mentioned that you've received a lot of conflicting information, can you give me example of? Can you give me an example of something where one of the aspects? So it could be, say, profile picture, right? Marshall mentioned that it's better not to have one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I've seen people say where you shouldn't add it, but if you add it, there's no harm because people want to see you. But then it could, uh, they could have a prejudice if they have that kind of thing in the industry. So there's the profile picture. There's also the colors and the columns, like they said. And then how much information is too much information? Do you want to make it relevant or just include everything you have in your history?
Okay. Anyone? Okay, we'll go with Hiza. Hiza, other than what Alia has mentioned, and thank you so much, Alia, for shedding light on that. And we'll make sure that we get clarity on the perspective that you shared in terms of whether you should add your profile picture, whether you shouldn't, and in terms of how it comes across to a recruiter. So now it's Hiza, your turn. I'd like you to introduce yourself and
Yeah.
and give me another point that we probably missed.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm a recent law graduate. I did my bachelor's in BBLLB, and right now I'm pursuing my master's from Middlesex University as an MSc in legal technology. So, what I would like to cover is like it's pretty much same. Like it's contradicting from different people. Like maybe someone will tell it's you can have two sides for your CV. Maybe you can have a profile picture. And there's something which I mean, I would like to add is like because I'm into legal tech, we are looking into the biasness of AI. So if we are adding certain words, even example for gender, the females are not getting recruited because of just mentioning female or male like gender thing in there. So this is something we are looking into because ATS is based on AI and the data is biased. So we can actually look into that also. And the other thing like alignment, everything, the ATS rating, everything is same only. A minimal font, like color, everything. So yeah, that's from my part. Thank you.
Thank you so much for shedding light on that. And yes, bias is definitely a part of what we're going to discuss. There'll be some parts which are in our control, which we can influence. Some parts we can probably not. And then we'll definitely make sure we touch on that. Based on whatever you're telling me, I'm making sure that I'm taking notes so that we cover those, we make sure that those aspects are covered. And we'll try to wrap up the information that I give you in the next 45 minutes so that we have enough time for all the Q&As that would follow. Yes, because the last thing I want is that you all came to a webinar and you received another set of conflicting information. So what we would do here is then we would look at that conflicting information and see how it applies in your context. Fair? Yasin.
Hi everyone. My name is Yassine Ali. I'm a first year student of business management in University of Birmingham, Dubai, and it's actually my first time joining one of these sessions. I didn't know like this was a regular thing. Like I only joined Pupil Hour like maybe last week. I got added to the group chat. Alhamdulillah, it's like so far it's been really interesting. I'm glad I've joined it. I'm glad I've joined this community. The reason I've joined this session, I guess, is like I know very little about ATS, but I'm part of my course is applying for internships and getting an internship. It's like 12.5% of my grade, whatever. And I really want to get the experience of an internship, especially in like a cutthroat environment like Dubai. So this is like a very new thing to me. So I don't really have much to contribute like everyone else, I guess.
Okay, so from what you know so far, you did mention that you don't know much. If you had to touch point on one thing, that what would that be?
I know that I think every single major recruiter has ATS and that they like automatically filter out a lot, like maybe 90% of applicants just based on that. I'm pretty sure ATS is like the automated system that just filters out resumes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Yeah. So I know I think everyone, every major recruiter on all the websites like LinkedIn, Easy Apply, all of that, they just filter out everyone who joins in. And it makes it really tough if you don't have like connections or wasta into the people already working in that company.
Okay, so you know what? I'm so glad that in your introduction you mentioned connections and Vasta, right? So we'll probably keep some time for some bonus tips on if your CV is not working out, what else can we do, right? And thank you for touching base on that. And I'm going to take thank you for bringing that up, Yasin, and I'll definitely take note of that. So beyond the CV, what else can we look at when we are struggling with our applications? Is that fair?
Yep, completely.
Thank you so much, Yasin. Sheikh, welcome.
Hi.
So tell me about yourself, just a brief introduction, and one thing that you know about ATS, and what would you like to know from the session?
Okay. Uh, Hi, I'm Muhammad Yusuf Sheikh. I'm pursuing Masters in Cybersecurity and Pen Testing from Middlesex University. Uh, uh, to have a brief discussion about ATS, I believe it is a tracking system of a resume which analyzes all the things, whether it is built in a perfect design and a perfect grammatical way where company can easily sort out the applicants. So I feel because since 1 year I'm trying for jobs. Since 1 year I'm trying for full-time jobs and internships, but I wasn't able to get any kind of reply from all the applications which I have sent to an organization. But Alhamdulillah, now I have found one opportunity in Dubai through Indeed, but I don't know whether my resume is ATS or not. Whenever I check through few websites like Enhance CV or something like that, when I put my resume into that, it will give me a resolution of 90%, 95%. Get some extra for get your resume as a ATS friendly for 100% by subscribing to by getting previous. So I was like, okay, just leave it. And I used to take a reference with ChatGPT to get what are all the application tracking system. But ChatGPT has helped me by building ATS friendly resume. But I have applied for Amazon company in Dubai. But it was for UAE nationals only. But I was like, okay, let's try whether I'll get a job or not. So it has passed. My resume has passed through ATS system, and then I was like, okay, my resume is an ATS English resume. So I was like, okay. Well, then after all the interview happened and all, they got to know that I'm not an UAE national, so they didn't give me the job.
Oh no,
That's
I'm
it.
so
So
sorry to hear that.
yeah,
But the good news is that your CV is getting through the system.
yeah, that is a good news.
Yeah, so now it's just up to the number of companies that you can apply to.
Yeah. But I believe that to my role, there are very limited jobs whenever I check the job portals and Naukri Girls, Indeed, LinkedIn, because they are asking for some kind of experience that we need. So it's
So, Sheikh, where are you currently? If I just want to understand that correctly, where are you based currently?
Mhm.
Where
And
are you based currently?
I'm in Dubai.
You're in Dubai right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm that. Okay. So we've got quite a diverse audience so far based on the introductions, and for the uh, where we did not get an opportunity to introduce yourselves, don't worry, we will get there. So we've got Jason from Australia. We've got Hiza with a legal background. We've also got Alia, who's currently working for the British Council and looking at opportunities out there. And then we go back to basics where we've got Yasin, uh, who who understands the ATS, and we would probably need some more information on how we can tackle some of the concerns. And thank you, Yasin, for bringing up the point of Vasta and connections. We'll definitely try our best to make sure that you get what you want, because this topic on its whole, when you look at CV, it's quite a big topic. Yes, and it's one document that tries to represent your life. It's quite interesting how you need one page to tell a recruiter, this is what I've been doing in my life, this is what I'm good at. Where in Pupilar, we always look at people, not profiles, right? We look at the person beyond rather than the credentials. While the world out there, they want you to be able to summarize your life's work into one piece of paper. We see things differently, and we look at skill-based hiring. Skill-based hiring only relies on your skills, whether you're a fresher or whether you've got 10 years experience, your skills, your values, and the person that's behind that piece of paper rather than that piece of paper. So let me give you an introduction of myself. Actually, Afsha, could you introduce me to the audience, please?
Like, I'm just gonna go a bit more than that as well, just to have you all together here. And I think there are new people who have joined the call as well. So thank you all for joining. My name is Afsha Khalifa from Team Pupilar, and I'm really excited to have you guys here. This will be our first webinar of the year. Before anything, I'd love to wish you guys a prosperous holy month of Ramadan to everyone who is fasting and to the ones who are not. Welcome to Pupilar's Career Community Events. This is something that we do every single Saturday, and it's completely free to join. Today's event is something that we call a Build It in a Day, and we are choosing CV as the topic of the day. Basically, in the next 2 hours or in the next hour, you will be receiving everything that you need in terms of all the information and insights to be able to build an ATS-proof CV, right? Now, before we jump right into the details of the session, there are a few things that I would like for you guys to do right now. I'm just going to be sending it across to you on the chat box so that you have everything right in front of you. Okay. For the ones who haven't switched on their cameras, please go ahead and do so. Number two, I would request for all of you to be very interactive in the session. As soon as a question is asked, I would want you guys to raise your hand and then, completely reply to the question. If you are not able to speak, then immediately put it up in the chat box just so that we're making the most out of this session, okay? Keep your mics on mute at all times, okay? Because we do not want any kind of distractions to be affecting the others in the call as well. And if you wish to say something in between, then again, raise your hands. Take notes. This will help you a lot. Take notes for yourself, take notes for your friends. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, if you guys want the recording, we can send that over to you as well. And now, just one last thing. I would want you guys to list down. You see how Alistair asked you direct questions, and for the ones who weren't able to answer as well, if you guys, all of you, can just write down in your chat box 3 things you wish to achieve from this webinar right now. And then I will hand it over to Alistair, and then you can immediately begin the call. So if you guys can do that right now, just send us a message, 123, what are the things you wish to achieve from this call? We will wait for 2 minutes for you guys to do that.
And the time starts now.
Okay, okay. How about the rest? 2 people have answered to me. 1 minute left for everybody who hasn't yet put it up. 20 seconds. Perfect. Thank you for the timer, Alistair. Okay, lovely. I'm so glad everybody has put up everything, and that gives us the right direction to lead this call as well for you guys. And now I'd like to give it over to Alistair Aronhar, the Strategic Youth Development Mentor at Pupilar. Now, just one thing about this guy. This individual has single-handedly transformed the lives of the youth that are involved at Pupilar. We are so lucky to have him on board, and you guys are so lucky to have him on this call. So please ask him the right questions at the end of the call, and he is the guy you need to connect with after the call as well. Over to you, Alistair, for an amazing event today.
I'm in to connect. So I've put my QR code on screen. So everyone, please feel free to scan this QR code. Thank you so much, Afsha, for that beautiful introduction. Remember, so if you connect with me on LinkedIn, there would be maybe some answers that I would have probably not been able to cover out here. We will definitely, other than the recording, we will send you all other materials that you can use to make sure that most of the answers which we cannot cover here are out there. Additionally, I make sure that I use my Sundays every Sunday and I respond to people. And it's something just so that you get the answers that you want that work for you. Because like I mentioned earlier, what would work for you might probably not work for the others. And then there's a tiny little chance that the question that you had asked or what you came in looking for did not apply to you. Yes, and in order to cover that, I'm happy to, for all the people who have attended to this session, to connect and answer the specific questions that you'll have, whether it's related to CV or anything within your job application process. Does that sound fair? Can I have thumbs ups? Perfect. So I'll tell you why my experience with CVs. So I've looked at 1,000 CVs in my lifetime, right? When I say 1,000, I'm saying with my very eyes. And the reason I was able to do that, because in the last decade, I had a system to filter out from 10,000. So from a series of 10,000 CVs, I was able to see 1,000. And this is still a small number if you're looking at the world that's out there. And I've seen some amazing CVs, and most of the CVs that I actually liked were the designer CVs. The ones that were made on Canva with 2 columns, with all the colors, with all the beautiful pictures. And yeah, you can call me biased, but most of them from the 1,000 CVs were that. But unfortunately, that probably doesn't work for a system. So before we proceed forward, I want to answer this one question that a lot of you had. Every time you make a CV, you need to look at it from 2 perspectives. So don't, for anyone who says that, oh, you shouldn't have a profile picture or you should have a profile picture, the context matters over here. So you would look at it from 2 perspectives, where you have a CV, which Alistair's eyes are going to see, and then you have a CV, which a system is going to see. So when you're building your CV, you need to decide one thing. Is your CV going to be something you would take to a networking event where someone can see it visually? Hey, this is what I do. Because now the 2-column CV that you have, it makes it very easy for an individual to see, okay, you have your skills and education on this side, your work experience on this side. And then some of you even put stars and circles. And then I've seen some of the CVs that came in from this workshop with diamonds. So maybe visually it helps a reader to understand that, while a one column CV becomes a bit complicated for a reader to look at firsthand, and it becomes easier for the system. So to answer that one question before we look into all the details is, you need to see who is the audience of your CV, just like how we did it in this workshop, right? We want to understand the audience, what the audience wants. So who's your audience when you're building the CV? Can you all put that in the chat box? Okay. Now, ideally, it's going to be professionals, recruiters, companies, organizations. Now, that's one question. How are they going to see your CV? Is it through an online application? Are you going to physically show that to them? Are you going to send them an email? Because now we'll probably understand how it works for various scenarios. Yeah, great point raised, Yasin. That's something which most of the new ATS systems have, where they use AI summaries based on what the CV contains. Okay, so we spoke about who's going to see it and how they're going to see it, right? We know who's going to see it. It's going to be the recruiters, HR. It could even be you trying to get a freelance project in which, rather than a portfolio, you end up sending across a CV just to introduce yourself, to give them a basic idea of the summary of what you are. So when you mention emails, if that email is directly to a person, you do not need to have just one CV. How many of you all have more than one CV? Can you raise your hand? Really, everyone has more than one CV, right? So look at it in this way. Everyone out here, I would recommend to build 2 CVs, minimum. Your 2 CVs minimum is one CV, which the human eye will see. And the second CV is the ATS-proof CV, which we'll be discussing through the course of this workshop. Okay? And the reason why this is important is because the last thing I want is people going around trying to make a one-column CV. At the same time, maybe you're in marketing, maybe you're in design, maybe you do want to showcase different aspects, because a 2-column CV can actually compress more information into one page. Clear? Can I have some thumbs ups in? Any questions regarding this? If I should have a 1-column CV or a 2-column CV? If I should have a designer CV or just a CV on a Word document? Because I wanted to get this basic information out of the way before we would get into any details. Yes, Reef. So what's on for today? We want to understand what the interviews are looking at, the who that you all mentioned, and then how to structure an effective ATS-proof resume that can get on. Like, you might be using an online tool to validate whether it's 80% success rate, 70% success rate. There are also tools on GPT that evaluate your CV based on job descriptions. So that's another thing we'll discuss, on how we can use AI to as a source of brainstorming to get the ideal CV. When I say ideal, it really depends. I remember seeing one of the things that they want, what is the best CV out there? So it's definitely something that we are going to be looking at. And finally, in terms of how can you build a real-time CV in the roadmap of your career for your future, rather than looking at your past? Does that sound fair? Great. I really like that, the thumbs up are coming in, because then I understand that everyone is capturing the information. Alia, you're raising your hand. You have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, but when going back to the designer CV versus ATS-friendly, what if you don't know whether it's going to be seen by a person or a system? What's the safer bet in that case?
So
The ATS, I'm guessing.
what do you think is the safer bet here when you don't know?
Probably ATS, because it works both ways, both can check it out.
Yes. The reason why the designer CV, so when you make a PPT, or when you make anything, or if you see something on a website, when it has colors, when it has images, or if it has symbols to segregate or to make it easier for the human eye, it just becomes easier to interact, right? So even when you apply with a 1-column CV, I would still tell people to go with the 2-column CV for the interview, because that's what they're going to show the person. Yes. So then if you do not have a portfolio, that is, it's always recommended to have 2 CVs, so that the person who's looking at your CV knows that this is in terms of organizational skills. Yeah, I've seen a lot of CVs having organizational skill out there, but the one document that you needed to organize of yourself is not organized. Make sense?
Yep.
Have I
Got
answered
it.
your question?
Yes. Thank you.
So looking at what are the hiring checkpoints that we look at. So when you apply through a job portal, I'm going to stick to job portals because that's what most of the people mentioned over here. Whether you're applying through LinkedIn, LinkedIn would have its own ways of passing information. So now that would be a completely different topic when you're using Easy Apply on LinkedIn. But when you're applying through job portals, because even when you're applying through LinkedIn, it takes you through different job portals and a company's external link. There is one section which looks at ATS screening. ATS screening, what it does is it, again, like Marshall mentioned earlier, it matches your keywords, checks if the required qualification is there, and also, like Hiza mentioned, there is that sense of bias. AI is biased, and that it just ends up filtering out candidates that are needed for that required role. Then after that, the series of CVs that are left out. So from 1,000 applications, if I've got 100 that are shortlisted, maybe not even 100. Let's say it could be 10 to 15 that are shortlisted. Now these are going to be seen by a human to see if their experience fits, if they're fitting culturally in terms of their values, their experience. And then finally, it comes to skill testing when you land the interview that you need to get into. Why is this important for you to know? Is because now the how it happens within the system is what's important for you to understand, because when your how is clear, you'll know why you are making the ATS CV. You'll also understand what you probably need to look into when you're evaluating your own CV. And at the end, we'll also send you self-reflection questions. So whether you should have your profile picture, whether you shouldn't, whether you should put in more information, whether you should have 1 pages, whether you should have 2 pages. It's really important for you to understand why you're doing what you're doing, so that whatever you're doing starts to make sense at the end of the day. Clear? Anyone has any questions in terms of the hiring checkpoints and how that works for an organization? Guys, when you'll raise your hand, I'm able to see it here. So if you'll have any questions at any point, feel free to raise your hands, and I'm happy to take a pause, answer your question. And in case I'm not, I'd like to finish the information and then move on to the next point, and then I'll come back to your question. I'll definitely let you know. But it's important that you'll raise your hand if you'll have any questions in regards to this. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a webinar. Yes, if we were personally sitting in front of each other, we could have done very different things to make this fun and interesting. But since we have that sense of disconnection and I can only see you all across the screens, I would really need your help to make the best out of the session. So what do recruiters look for? It's very different from what do recruiters see, right? I mentioned that earlier, where your CV is either for the machine or for the human. Your context really matters here when you're building the CV. So let's look at an overview of what ATS is. So what is the definition of ATS? Can someone help me with the definition of ATS? Marshall, you watched a lot of YouTube videos. Can you please help us in with this?
Artificial assist screening, I'm guessing.
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I actually don't remember the full form of ATS. A is for artificial assistant screening. That's my guess. Don't remember what the T was.
Would anyone else want to give it a shot? Alia?
I think, I don't know, automated tracking system.
I like it. I like that we are all entered a workshop on how to build any system. But Jason, would you like to give
Uh,
it a try?
Applicant tracking system.
I'm sure you Googled it. I could see you typing something.
They have put in the chat.
That's Sheikh, thank you for that. So it could either be application tracking system or applicant tracking system. It's like it's mentioned, it's a tracking system, just that is built to filter out CVs. I wanted to give you all a little history. I know history is boring, but it's important for us to understand why it was originated. So this was actually built earlier in between the 90s and early 2000s because recruiters used to find it difficult to actually find the right candidates given the demand and supply of jobs. There are less recruiters and there are more applicants. There are more people applying for jobs than there are jobs out there. And I'm telling you, I really love the ATS. And I do hate it as well. I hate it when I'm applying for jobs. I love it when I have to filter out people so I don't have to go through 10,000 CVs. And it really helps with organizing contacts for a recruiter. So let me speak to you on a recruiter's perspective. It helps me track the candidates that I have across the hiring process. And it also helps me to build a tool, a pool of database that I can use the talent even in the future if I'm not shortlisting them right now. And like everyone mentioned, the one thing that it does is it relies on keywords. Does anyone has a Word document of their CV open right now? Can someone open their Word document of a CV that they have? Sheikh, yes. Can you tell me how many words your CV contains when you open the document?
I
When you open the
believe
Word document at the
800.
end, it
Yeah,
shows you the number of words, right?
yeah.
How many words? Can you tell me?
I think it is like 800 or 1250 around.
1250.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know exact count of, but I'll let you know.
556. Anyone else can open their Word document and just tell me how many words exist on their CV? Yasin, just put it in the chat box, Yasin. 259. Isa, you've got 259 words on your CV. That's okay, Sheikh. You don't need to share
Oh,
your screen. That's absolutely fine. I just needed to don't know the number of words.
okay, sorry.
Umair 420. So I just want to give you all a rule of thumb. Okay. So some of you all mentioned one-page CV and some of you all mentioned two-page CV. So when you're looking at keywords, one of the concerns that people have is you need to start looking at how many words actually exist on your CV. Yes. So when you're writing an essay, when you start writing different documents, you always have limits on the number of characters. So ideally, a minimum would be 400. So I think Hiza mentioned you had 259 words. I'd be happy to look at the CV on LinkedIn later, just to see how have you been able to showcase the results that you've achieved in your lifetime and your career in 259 words. However, a minimum that you'd always want to look at is 400 words. Why am I mentioning words? Because the moment I say one page, two page, three page, or the layout of CV, if it should be one column or two column, it starts to get complicated because now that relies on how much space you have. If you want to put more spacing, if you want to put less spacing, if your font size is reduced, maybe your font size is big. So the number of words in your CV, I would give you a rule of thumb to always take note of is 400. Anything less than that is too less. When I say it's too less is in your lifetime, right? I'm sure everyone here is a minimum of 15 to 20 years old. Yes, tomorrow, even if you did a school project that showcases the evidence that you have some sense of experience. So to be able to summarize the life's work that you've done, and I'm really saying life's work and not work experience in an actual job in less than 400 words is quite difficult. So anything less than that is you're not doing justice to the work that you've done in your lifetime. So look at it from that perspective into how can you do justice to the things that you've done in your lifetime. So when you look at keywords, then how much of that needs to be keywords? Okay, everyone copy? Anyone has any questions? Why we need 4? Jason, yes.
You said minimum also for 400. What's the maximum you can put as well?
How many years of experience do you have, Jason?
I'm still a student, but I've had, you could say, 1.5 years at least of some job experiences.
So the maximum would be 800 if you have more than 10 years of experience. But ideally, between 400 to 600 is a good number to play with as long as everything fits in one page. Have I answered your question, Jason?
Yeah.
Anyone else has any? Samarth? Samarth, before you ask your question, I'd like you to switch on your camera, please.
Sorry, my camera isn't working.
Your camera isn't working. How do you take selfies then?
I mean, I'm in my laptop.
Okay,
I
fine.
take selfies from mobile.
I'm happy for you to leave the call and join for your phone so I can see you, Samarth.
Okay, sure. Just give me 2 minutes.
No worries. I'll wait for your question. I'll move on, okay? Omer.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, as a student, there are various factors that influences when building a CV. For example, if I consider myself back in school, I was not part of a lot of initiatives which were hosted by the school. But whereas I joined my university, I got, along with my peers, my colleagues, got into a lot of initiatives of the university. So if an example student, like a student like me who is there, what is the minimum and maximum word limit that we should maintain in terms of experience within the university cohort?
So what I'm giving you right now is a guideline, right? I'm not telling you that you'll not get a job if you put 350 words. Yes. And when I say minimum, I really, if you feel like, oh, you're not able to fill, I'm not saying force words into the CV to make it 400. If those four, when we look at 400, now I'm going to look at every single word that has value. Yes. Then what is the kind of job you're applying for would matter over here. But then the last thing I want to do is put my, see, when I put my KG certification, it's going to use 5 words, achieve this in kindergarten, right? Versus if I want to put my school certification, I know people with master's degrees, they also, they start putting it on their CV that this is what they achieved in 10th grade and 12th grade. Now, those are using words. So now, how much of that word will actually hold value, considering the fact that I have a master's degree? If I have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, or if I'm in university right now pursuing my education, how much would it matter if I to put my KG certification or the things that I earned in 10th grade? Am I making? The reason I'm going through extreme examples, by the way, is so that you understand the context that I'm trying to mention over here.
Yeah, like for me, like the extreme example of how you use 10th and 12th compared to a master degree is something similar to me, like having nothing back in school to doing something back in university. It's like two extreme positions. So yeah, that's pretty much the answer I wanted. Thank you.
I'll give you an example of what it was like for me 10 years back when I was looking for jobs. And I hope that should give you some clarity on this. I did not have a lot of work experience. I never took part in extracurricular activities. I never had the opportunity to, or took the chance to fill up my CV on when it came to my school. And even after that, my university experience was not enough to make me look good, right? Because ideally, all the words that you're going to be putting in is to make yourself look good in the best way possible. So I really went to dig into all the things that I did into my life to see how I can make myself look good and to show value. And now how do you do that is something that becomes very tricky, and it applies from individual to individual. And we'll get to how we can actually do that within the session. Does that sound fair, Omer? Alia?
Yep.
I had a question. You might probably address this later, but is there anything where PDFs don't work with ATS and a Word document is better? Because I read that somewhere, and even now you asked for documents. So I was just wondering.
So when you export a Word document into a PDF, it's fine. But there are, for example, right, there is a CV that I built on Photoshop. And I do all these tests just to see what works, what doesn't work. So I would build CVs on Illustrator, I'd build CVs on Photoshop, I'd build CVs on Canva. When you export a Canva file and any of these files as a PDF, the PDF, the encryption, and I'm sorry I'm getting technical over here, but it's just for you all to get the idea. The encryption of how the data is stored within the PDF. If there's anyone out here who probably has more technical information, I'd be happy if you all want to shed some light on this, is how the data is captured on the PDF. But when you export a Word document to a PDF, you would want to do that so people don't misuse your information. The whole purpose of exporting it as a PDF is so that that's it. That's the word. If you want to misuse my information, you probably have to take the trouble, copy it to another file. There are so many tools out there in which you can still do that. However, when you have to look into what format are you exporting into, from which format you're exporting it to. So when you export a Word document into a PDF, that's absolutely fine. But the moment you take a Canva file and you make it into a one-column CV and then you export it, the system won't be able to recognize it. There are, by the way, just to let you all know, and this is just to give you all hope, that yes, you all can definitely, there are systems being built in which they can recognize all of this because technology is advancing. Yes. However, the number of companies that actually have access to it is very low. It's big organizations do have access to it, but now to sit and pick and choose which one has access, which one doesn't, is still a work in progress, because not every organization has the budget to bring that within their system. So this is why this information on using Word documents is something that is always recommended. So when you export a Word document, to answer your question, to a PDF, it just makes it easier for the system to take in that information, because as much as you see it as a PDF, the system records the words within the document on the source of the formatting. I'm sorry, I'm using too many technical words here. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Okay, source, Word, Canva, Photoshop, Illustrator. That's one way. So when you export it into the PDF will recognize it based on the source. I
Gotcha.
answered your question earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us and showing us your beautiful face. Yes, you have a question.
Yeah, I was saying that as you are told that your CV should be minimum 800 words if you have 10 years of experience.
No,
What is
not
the
minimum,
maximum number?
up to.
Sorry?
Up to
Okay.
800. I'm telling
Okay.
you, I have around 11 years of experience, and my CV is one page.
So what will be the maximum number of words in a CV for a beginner?
For a beginner,
Yeah.
400 to 500, as long as
Okay.
it's one page. Now, let me give you an analogy that works, that would help you think over here. Because I've seen a fresher with 1 year experience who's built a 3-page CV. Okay. Where they go like, oh no. And when we have these one-on-one discussion, I want them to see I did this. I want them to see that I did this. And there would be series of this. that they want the recruiter to see. If I gave you a brochure that was 3 pages that shows you what value you're going to get from the brochure, versus if I gave you the same brochure in 1 page that's showing you the same value and the same outcome, which one would you pick? Raise your hands if you would pick the 1-page brochure. So the logic that I'm using out here is, think about your CV being a marketing tool in which you're going to sell yourself. Do you really want to put a 3-page brochure in a world where even if I give you a 1-minute video, you're still more likely to watch a 15-second reel? Yes. So then how can you compress that value? Now, here it comes to the process of elimination. What information is not important for the recruiter to know? And that's why I gave you the framework of keep it as to a minimum of 4 words, because that's what would come into 1 page, as long as the maximum number of words don't exceed that 1 page. Fair? Have I answered your question?
Yeah.
Samarth, you don't seem convinced.
Hello.
But
Yeah.
here, so I can see if you're convinced or no.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So generally, like I mentioned earlier, your resume is your advertisement. It's that one document that represents everything about you. And it's the best way to showcase, it's a brochure of yourself. A brochure of yourself to be able to show the world what you're capable of doing. Let's look at the roadmap you can take for your CV. Okay? So now just a bit of work that you all will probably need to do from your side. How many of y'all have a dream role that you all want to achieve in the future? Okay, Yasin. Can you tell me that role which you probably don't want to apply right now, but you want to probably apply a few months down the line?
I don't know about months, but it's like maybe years because I need like the experience for it. But the role is a project manager or an event manager, one or the other.
Okay. So now this is where I would say step 1 comes in, right? Where you would probably want to look at the job title you're aspiring to be in the future. And then you'd probably need to sit in to see everything, every aspect in your skills that would align with that job role. And then you need to build your own job description for that. Now, how are we going to do this? With everybody's favorite over here, ChatGPT. Marshall, what is the job role that you mentioned?
Head of marketing for new balance.
I can't. I'm not able
Can you
to
hear
hear
me
you.
now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, head of marketing for New Balance.
Head of marketing for?
New Balance. That's useful.
I couldn't hear the last part. Can you put it in the chat box while I
New
move
Balance.
to Alia?
So I would like to be a marine biology researcher.
Marine biology.
Yep.
Then what would be the skills and accomplishments that you would visualize for that?
So to do that kind of research, you need some background, so some experience, starting from the internship level and then helping other doctorates and researchers with their work, and then you build your skill set. And even field experience is required.
Okay. So I'll tell you the reason for this exercise. Okay, this is an exercise which you would do with yourself, and this is to everyone out there. Not everyone wants to be an intern, right? An intern is a route, or intern, or your first entry level job. I'd actually want to ask Hiza the same question, because you mentioned you have a legal background. So right now you did mention you're applying for a job, but if you had to look at the future role you'd be applying for, what role would that be?
A data protection officer.
Data protection officer. Do you believe you have skills right now to be a data protection officer?
I believe, yeah, I have the skills, but I don't have the experience.
You see, the only thing that we have in common, all of us, and probably raise your hand if, can you all, everybody raise your hand if you'll say that you'll have the skills, you don't have the experience for that future job role? So, real,
Yes.
do you feel the same way? Because you've not raised your hand.
Yeah. No, I don't.
You've muted yourself.
Okay, 2 to 3 years ago, I thought I had the skills until I got in the position where I didn't have the experience, and I didn't realize that no, I didn't have the skills yet. And then I start to believe that really skills come from experience, and that's why people ask for experience, not only the skills, because you think something in reality is another thing, and when you learn from real, experience, it's different set of skills, I would say.
Right. So the objective over here, which we're trying to serve, is we're trying to understand what's our dream outcome, what's our vision. Because now, when we start, we're looking at our CV, we're not looking at the CV that we're building right now, but we're looking at the CV that we want to build for ourselves in the future. Yes? And one thing that the big part of the audience has right now, and Jason, even I would like to also know from you in terms of, do you align with the rest of the audience when it comes to, okay, you have the skills but probably not the experience for your dream job role?
Not currently, because my dream job role for any for an engineer, especially, it's project manager. So still a student. So I'm what I see for a project manager is more higher skills and everything that in that way. So yeah, still going for the skills part.
Okay. So I'm going to use Jason as an example over here. Okay. The reason why, because he's an engineer, he probably needs a lot of technical knowledge and skills, plus he needs the experience for his dream job role. And I really want you all to understand the value of this exercise for yourself when you're trying to build your current CV. Everyone has their own CV in which they've written the basic outline of what they want it to look like and what they want to show to an organization. But while you're building your future and you're able to document it in the form of your CV, so say, for example, now when Jason wants to learn project management with, and he does not probably feel like he has the technical skills, that's his feeling that he does not have the technical skills. But when you start putting that down in paper, now he'll know that he wants, if for project management, he needs to learn the agile methodology, or he would need to learn how to manage stakeholders. He would need to learn. So these are the skills that he'd probably be looking at in the future. Yes. So while he builds that CV of the future, he'll also understand the gap between where he is currently at and he needs to be in the future. And he will also be able to understand what kind of experience he needs. So tomorrow, even if he does not land a job right now, he'll be able to gather the experience that he requires, gather the knowledge and skill that he requires to close that gap to eventually land that role. And the reason why I'm saying that this is a winning CV and the exercise is required for a winning CV is because most of us, we build our CV based on the past, right? We do look at our past experience, but most of the organizations want to see what you can build for the future. Now, does that mean I'm saying that you lie on your CV? Absolutely not. Yes, a person who's a data analyst who wants to, they probably don't have the experience dealing with, say, large amounts of data. But while you're able to see that vision for yourself, you'll also understand that the work that needs to be done while you are unemployed, while you're in the search for the next job role to close that gap. Because now it's one thing you have the right keywords. That's fine. You have AI to do that for you. You have different online tools to do that for you. And I'll probably even show you how you can use ChatGPT to do that for yourself. But is that going to be enough? Because you'll get the right keywords, but then that's where you'll struggle in the interview. And that's the reason why before we get into that, it's an exercise that I'd like everyone to do after the call to build a CV for their future. And feel free to even use AI for that. And we'll also share any materials that you would require based on these questions that you have. Omer, you've raised your hand. I really like the fact that I'm only answering questions and I'm not going through these slides. Did you all get clarity on what I mentioned in terms of why this exercise matters? Does anyone have any questions? Jason, shoot.
So like you're saying, try to make a CV for your future, the future goal you want. Does that also include, so if you're trying to make a CV now also, like you said, not to lie, but so how do you plan to draft such a CV like that?
Now,
Current
tell
one.
me, in terms of being a project manager, you're lying. Are you missing a PMP certification? Is that what you're missing?
I mean, certain soft skills also.
What soft skills are you missing?
No, if you're, the whole team mostly coding type, then you have other certifications, like mostly for project managers, you need a minimum of an MBA, what I've
I was
heard.
a project manager when I was 21. I'm trying to make you dream big, and I did not have any project management experience.
Yeah, but what I've heard a lot of people say, if you want to, climb the corporate ladder, you do need a, one thing is an MBA. All that.
So I'll ask you a question. Do you want the world to define you and the methods on how you're going to work, or are you going to take control of it yourself?
That's also second
Right?
option always.
The world says a lot of things. The reason why we are in this webinar is so we can challenge the world. The only thing we cannot challenge is the ATS system. But we can dream big and we can build a roadmap for ourselves to achieve that. And I'm telling you, take it from me. I'm currently working in 3 job roles. I don't have any certification in my name. I think I'm the biggest testimonial, and I'm teaching y'all how to apply for jobs. So if I'm not a testimonial, and I probably have 10 other people who do not have certifications, but they were able to dream big and make it come to life. And given access to information that we have in this day and age, the soft skills, and I'm sure that you'll be able to build that. But when you see that dream, yes, and I really want you to dream big, because that's where your winning CV will lie. Because just like you, Jason, there are 10 other people thinking the same way. How do you stand out, Jason?
Gotta work on yourself mostly. Yeah.
Right?
No,
But you won't know what to work on if you've not drafted your future CV. Yes? When you that, you get a clear roadmap. Okay, so now you'll know that, okay, these are the 5 things that are actually missing in my current CV. Yes?
Yeah.
Have I answered your question?
Yeah, I pretty much got it.
Dream big. Can you promise me that?
Yeah,
Everyone's there.
sure.
Okay? Everyone, if you'll meet Jason, we'll see him becoming what he's going to become.
Hopefully.
Not hope on a strategy. We only work on strategies and people are. Okay, I really want you to be sure at this call.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay,
it's
fine.
a motivational speech.
Okay. So I'm gonna quickly skim through this part because it's basic information which most of y'all have in terms of the do's and don'ts of a CV. So ideally, in terms of information, just your contact information, and this is in order of, it doesn't need to be in the same hierarchy. If you have a summary in the start, that would be great. And I'll also show you examples of what it could probably look like. Yes. So this is not my summary, by the way, but I'm just giving you an idea of the concept of formatting. So some people also want to use a Word CV, but at the same time, you also want it to look good. So basic contact information. And as much as possible, you need to make sure it aligns with what the job description is saying. A summary, why it's important. I'll give you an example of a summary that I just read today morning. Okay. Motivated and structure-oriented business student. Now, I won't mention whose CV this is, but it's one of the person in the audience outside. The moment I had the first 5 words in the CV, I'm already looking at structure orients and I'm also looking at results. So you know how people mention detail oriented, results oriented, and different forms of orientation that they have. It's mentioned on the summary, but at the same time, when I read the rest of the CV, it doesn't align. And I'll explain what that means. If I say I'm a results oriented professional, I read the rest of the CV and I only see roles and responsibilities. I've posted 5 things, I've made 1,000 calls, I've gone to so many sessions, but there are no results. So, for example, if I'm, say, a results oriented professional, how can I show results on my CV? If I'm a detail oriented person and the spelling of detail and oriented both are wrong, that's the first document that I'm going to be looking at. So these are certain key aspects to keep in mind where when you're on the first half of your CV, because your first half of your CV determines what the rest the interview is going to see. And with the applicant tracking system, the majority of your keywords are going to try to be there within the summary section. Okay. Now, in terms of the number of words that need to be there, it's really, I'm going to leave that up to you, but try not to keep your summary for more than 3 to 4 lines, depending on the font sizes that you've chosen for yourself. Now, can someone tell me what do I mean by results? Samarth, can you tell me what is the, if you're looking at the, okay, I would just want you to give me a summary of your last job role, something that you've done. It doesn't need to be an actual job. It could be something that you've done so that I can give a key example of what I'm talking about.
Actually, I've not done anything. I've applied to many jobs, internships, roles, and I've not been selected in one also.
In university, you did mention that you didn't get an opportunity to do a lot of things. Can you give me an example of?
Not much.
Okay, tell me one thing that you did in terms of your roles and responsibilities that you're proud of. I'm gonna ask you your last job role. Can you tell me one 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 responsibility that you handle that you're really proud of?
I was in client servicing. The proudest achievement for me was having a 100% retention rate on several clients.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you there. Now, if I'm looking at, can you tell me, Hiza, if I tell you that Marshall has 100% retention rate with clients, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, the percentages provided the data, the numericals are there, so I can assess it fastly rather than if it's in like in a wording.
So something that Marshall did over here, and that's absolutely amazing, is that he used one line to summarize the 10 things he would have probably done with the client. Can you tell me the roles, what you had to do to achieve that 100% retention rate?
So from a B2B perspective, firstly is have, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Afsha, if you could just type down what Marshall has done, what he's stating to get that 100% retention rate on the chat so everyone can see what he's saying.
First things first, having monthly onboarding meetings with the client for every new month's objectives and goals. Secondly, taking those objectives and conveying that as marketing, whether it's social media or campaigns or even print media. Next thing is organizing the internal team to and briefing them to ensure that once again organizing different teams. It's a creative team, a design team, and also production team. Uh, then the other part of it is the having a mid month review because we work once a month. Have a mid month review to see how far we are with our progress and if there's any sort of decline or some sort of trouble that we can sense earlier before the end of the month, we can kind of think of ways on how we can mitigate that. Basically, damage control at the mid of the month to ensure that by the end of the month we do achieve our goals. And in the end of the month, we have a monthly review, reporting, and also analysis where we went correct, where we went wrong, Yeah.
Okay, I'm
But,
going to stop you right there because you've done a lot of things to achieve this 100% client retention rate.
yeah, I was trying to shorten it down. Yeah.
You were shortening, that was short.
Hey,
Okay, so just again, Marshall's, and the reason why I used Marshall as an example over here is that we do a lot of things to achieve the results that we want to, right? He mentioned briefing the team. He also mentioned some aspects of where he would get involved with social media. These are all the roles and responsibilities that he had to take care of to achieve that top line 100%. Now, as a person who's entering, who's trying to actually draft down my work experience, if my keyword in the job description speaks about social media management, that's when I would take and start mentioning it in a way where a social media management is fitted into the word. However, the main thing that I want the recruiter to see is the result that I achieved, because that's what the ATS is going to see as well. So what is a common framework? Everyone knows what is the XYZ method. Reel, are you typing something for us?
No, or just like typing the XYZ method, trying to start writing.
Okay. So like, for example, to achieve this, Marshall had to have monthly meetings with the clients. He had to take all those objectives, then convey it to marketing. Then he had to also organize meetings and briefings with the clients. He had to have mid-month reviews. There are a lot of things that he had to do to achieve that one outcome. Yes. A lot of us, when we put it in our CV, we only mention what we did and how we did it. We don't talk about the results that we achieved. So what I would do is, I'm just going to take this out here, just copy it, put it on just to see, to give you all a demonstration on how you all can look at your work experience. Okay. By the way, I did not use my brains over here. Yeah. For anyone who thinks they need to use their brains over here, I'm gonna put what I put on GPT. I'm being very transparent over here that I've used a chat GPT to use the 4 points that Marshall has mentioned with a framework called XYZ. I'm not going to elaborate on the XYZ, but this is just the first prompt that I got. And I'm going to show you on how you are going to enhance it just for that one line of experience. Okay. Can everyone, Marshall, not Marshall, Yasin, can you just read out what's written on the chat to the audience, please?
Sure. Achieved a 100% client retention rate by conducting structured monthly meetings, where I translated client objectives into actionable marketing strategies, ensuring continuous alignment through mid-month reviews for optimization and damage control.
That sounds very long, by the way. So now you see there are words. I'll just read out some keywords that could align with some descriptions and probably some would not align with some. Yes, because if I read out of a slide saying reverse chronological order, everyone knows that. Everyone knows they need to have the company titles, dates, and key achievements. And we've made it clear that we need to show results rather than what we did. So what I would do now, I would take the same prompt. Yes, I take these results that I achieved. I would look at the job description. Now from this, which keywords align in this achievement that I had with the job description? Is structured client monthly meetings one of it? Is client, if they've used the word customer, I change the word to customer. So I'm going to do the next prompt I'd be here is the job description, that paste that job description into the GPT. Okay, I'm telling you, this is a long cut method. I do have a shortcut method, which I never share with anyone because then it just makes people lazy. Okay. So this is just the first prompt that I got, and I did it live in front of you all. So you all can see how Marshall's experience can be translated into showing an achievement. So people don't want to see what you've done. They want to see what you've achieved, because you've probably worked for a year. And this is where, your one-page brochure becomes really valuable. Anyone would want to hire someone who's achieved a high client retention rate. Anyone would want to hire someone who's increased the number of engagement. For example, if I'm a social media manager, does the audience care about if I made 500 posts? Because of 4 posts could be absolutely bad. Just pardon my language. It could be bad, right? But then what is the results? How much revenue did I achieve? How much cost did I save? How many customers did I increase? What was the value? I could have probably increased the number of followers, but these are the results. A lot of us, when we put information into our CV, we match the keywords with what we have done. I have managed 10 projects. Okay. But when you manage those 10 projects, did you finish the project faster? Did you finish the project making it cheaper? Or did you earn more money out of the project? What was the outcome of the project? Yes. So I really want you all to feed this into your mind, where now I would take the information that Marshall has given, I'd put that into another line to see the words that would align. Say client objections, client objectives. Maybe objectives is not the word. In the job description, they've used the word goals. Then I would change that. Continuous alignment. Maybe the continuous alignment is not used, they've used stakeholder management. Maybe they've not used mid-month reviews, they've just used the word reviews. So I want to try to reduce the number of words out here and probably put it in such a way where now the system can detect the tasks that I've done in the shortest way possible and see the results that I've achieved. Any questions?
Yes, one question. Okay. I asked ChatGPT about what is XYZ exactly, and he gave me an example of that. Like managing social media account is X, okay? Through developing content strategies, effective content strategy is Y, which lead to increasing the engagement by 40% in 3 months, and this is Z. This is how we write it, or I believe that Z and X should be, switched. Like starting with that, I increased the engagement by 14% in 3 months, and then through what? And then by managing the social media's account.
I agree. So the same framework that I've put here, right?
Yeah.
The first line, if a human is going to see it, they're going to see the number. Are you going to put the number in the starting or in the end?
In the start.
Right? So what you achieved. So now even this doesn't, maybe you've led a team. Maybe you've handled certain projects. So the terms that you use need to align with the job description. So this is where you're really going to focus on where you don't overuse keywords. I've seen CVs, and trust me when I'm telling you this, where it looks like they've used the whole job description and they've put it on the CV. You might get through the portal and land an interview. But what happens at the interview stage? Does anyone have any questions with this part on the XYZ method? And aligning that with the keywords.
Hello everyone. I'm so sorry for joining so late. Actually, was very occupied because of certain other course.
Ramadan Kareem Tahir, and I just request you to switch on your camera now that you're here.
Yeah, sure.
Tahir, we were just
Can you
discussing
see?
the XYZ method and how we can show our results and how our results that we've achieved matters more than the things that we do. Yeah. And we just discussed examples, and I'm just going to paste it again on the chat since you might not have the chat in terms of how it is. And I've also looked into your CV because you're one of those who sent your CV, and I'm happy to share feedback on your CV if we connect on LinkedIn later, since we're connected on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us anyway. And since you missed some of the aspects, I'll just share your feedback on your CV on LinkedIn, right? And I'll move on from here.
Sure. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much, first of all, and Ramzan Kareem to you as well, to all of the others who are observing this.
So this is the part where we add metrics. Remember, the metrics that we show really need to align with the keywords. If they've not, if they're using a different tool, if they're using, say, Zoho, maybe they're using for example, your CRM database system that they're using is SAP. So how can you align everything that's mentioned in the job description along with the results that you've achieved? Because you can do the same thing even in your summary section. Now, then I have to pick and choose. Do I want it in my experience or do I want it within my professional summary? So this is something we've discussed before, and this is just the general rule of formatting when we are looking at ATS as a whole. Using a clean, readable font. Yes, we don't want to use Jokerman on our CV. If anyone knows that font, it's not readable at all. Ideally, a black and white CV works. At the same time, I see, for example, like Tahir has probably put the name of the company in a blue color font, but as long as it's on a Word document, and if you change the color for easy readability, it's fine. As long as that there are no too many colors out there. You want to keep the CV as simple as possible without wondering whether you want to, if you want a red CV or a blue CV, because then biases will come where the person doesn't like any color and they might probably reject your CV. So black and white is always recommended in a one column, like Marshall mentioned earlier as well. One column. And yeah, you want to try to stay away from too much clutter. You can see the CV on the left. By the way, this is not my CV. I'm just making it very clear. This is just a one column CV. Again, just look at the formatting and probably don't look at the experience. And the only person who's and I probably look at all the CVs. I don't know if Rehan is on this call, but from all the CVs that I've received, Rehan was the only one who had a one column CV that was out there. The rest, always, most of us who send the CVs had a CV that was built on Canva, that had different symbols, that had different colors. They were in two columns. And to be honest, it was very hard for me to even look at the hierarchy out there. So this is also one of the CVs that came in where the information is too cluttered. So you need to look into how you can make it balanced. There's no harm in using a template, but you have to just use a template with caution, because in the end, it's your CV. It's about you. You don't want to be a part of a template. That is one thing, that's the most important. As much as it's something that takes time, it's the most important document of your life that can actually help you get a job. And I see that that's the only place where people take the least amount of effort in terms of where it needs to be presented, how it needs to be presented, in terms of even reviewing with people. So rather than applying for jobs on LinkedIn, how can we get a review of a professional who's already working within an industry to look into that? Yes, Samarth.
Uh, can a CV be two-page to like not make it look cluttered?
So I would really request you to look at how can you to look at, based on the job that you're applying for, how can you eliminate information that doesn't apply to that job? Would never recommend, since when you have anything less than 5 to 10 years of experience, a two-page CV, unless you have a PhD and you've done so many reports, then you can find other ways to communicate that. So you know how your LinkedIn is basically your CV on, or even if you have a portfolio. So LinkedIn has a lot of information. It can store a lot of information, and the user gets to choose what they want to see. So then wouldn't you rather put your LinkedIn hyperlink and try to showcase the additional things that you've done rather than trying to clutter everything on a CV for the recruiter to see? Yes, the process of
Yeah.
information on what's worth that particular job role is really important. Yes, because now if I'm not able to make a document on myself and effectively communicate all the things that I'm good at and the things that I can achieve for an organization, how can an organization trust that I'm going to come there and do the job for them? Think about it in that way.
So,
Have I answered your question, Samarth?
yeah.
Overusing of keywords. That's one thing that we spoke about. Also, when you look at the first thing that I take when I get a job description and I'm helping someone with the CV is within the job description, I'll highlight every single word that has been used in one color. Okay. If I'm just Afsha, I would just request you to note this down as well in the chat so that everyone has access to it. First, if you, and this is the manual method, right? Not the GPT method. I would recommend use GPT once you're used to doing the manual way at least once or twice. So you highlight every single keyword that you see that's relevant to the job role. That's one. Second, in order for you to differentiate which part of it can you do, which part can you not do, then you sit and underline the keywords that work for you. So for example, if you've never done stakeholder management before, if you can find other ways to make it look like you've done stakeholder management, sure, go ahead and do it. But don't force in a keyword just because it exists in the job description. Does that make sense? So one of the things they mentioned is that was mentioned earlier in this call is that there are so many online tools to show what is the percentage that your CV matches a job description. You don't need to have 100% match. The 100% part is only what Marshall is doing in terms of client retention rate and his job role. I'm curious to meet him and discuss how he got 100%, right? But 100% is not a solution. There's no organization that I've worked with in the past. I've worked with entrepreneurs. No one needs 100% match. And I'm telling you this, that in any job description, it's not realistic to have 100% match from your CV. So do not aim for that 100% match. If your minimum 60 to 70% matches, that's all that matters. As long as you make sure that that 60 to 70% is not forced keywords, but they show value. Does that make sense? So for example, in Marshall's example, he's used the word clients, but say if you were working in retail, maybe you would use the word customer. But it's important that you don't force a keyword. Any questions? Samarth, you're still raising your hand. I see Yasin is nodding his head. Every time we build a CV, we only think of ourselves, right? And what is the first thing that we discussed? Who's your audience? Who's going to see the CV, right? It's about them. It's about who's going to see your CV. So for example, if you won in a cooking competition, and if it's not important to them, it's not probably required. Yes, and then you probably save another time when you're in the interview to tell them how you're passionate about cooking, music, and everything. Sports, yes, maybe sports is important because it shows that sense of collaboration. So instead, rather than putting, say, collaboration in my skills, how important it is. So every time you look at something that you're putting on your CV, you really need to look into how you're aligning the keywords with them. And then the next part would be tailoring. So remember I said you need to have minimum 2 CVs. I really mean minimum. So I'm going to give you one hack that I've been using with people to help them to build their CVs again and again and again, where I know that if you have hundreds of job applications, yeah, you have to tailor your words towards 100 times. You have to make 100 CVs, save 100 PDFs. Okay, this is for this company, that's for this company, this cover letter is for this company. It starts becoming complicated. So one thing that I started doing when the paid version of ChatGPT came out. Okay, does everyone have 80 dirhams? Can you raise your hand if you don't have 80 dirhams? I only want to speak to the ones who don't. Don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you something and I'm not an ambassador of any AI tool. But this is just something that could make your life easier. No one? Oh, thank God, everyone has 80 dirhams. Okay. Oh, Tahir, you don't have 80 dirhams? Okay, you don't. We'll have a discussion later, Tahir. So in the pro version of ChatGPT, you can create your own GPT. Yes. In a way, what I would recommend you to do is, like Samarth mentioned, he's probably done so many things but his one page is not enough to showcase that. You need to take a Word document and list down every single experience that you've had within your lifetime. When I say every single, it could be you as an intern, all the projects. Even if it goes on to 3 to 5 pages, what I make people do is I make them write at least a 4 to 6,000 word document that discusses every single thing that they've done. So the 10 things that Marshall has mentioned that he did to achieve that, that goes into that one document, right? You build an elaborate Word document. You can also create this as a project on a GPT, and you have access to this in the paid version, and eventually it will come in the free version as well. You can also do it manually by uploading that same document onto the GPT, where you have 4 to 6,000 words that drafts every single thing that you've done and within your career. That's one. Create the document that drafts every single thing into one space, upload that document. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take the job description, and based on the job description, AI decides which aspects align with your role. So all this is going to take you to do is sit on one day. One day you focus and put every single thing that's out there that you've done. I know this is going to be a really elaborate document, but now for your next 10 applications, you make your life so much easier, because right now what you'll have to do is you'll have to just paste in your job description, and then based on your experience, what will it do is it'll give you the CV that is tailored based on the job description, but what you inputted. This is what you've created, the descriptions that you've given to yourself and the professional summaries that you've had and different versions of that. Because now, tomorrow, even if you have to draft a professional summary, you have an entire document that speaks about everything that you've done. So you're giving the AI, you're giving the GPT, right now it's GPT, there are so many tools out there. The reason why I use GPT, because that's the most common tool that is used with everyone, in which it will also check how many keywords are matching. It will also be able to align the experience that you had with the job description. And now you get to pick and choose which aspect goes on your CV, and it saves you all the manual work. All it requires you to do is spend 1 day's time to prepare that one document that defines everything that you've done in your life. Raise your hands if this seems a little complicated. Yes, Tahir.
The initial part I was not able to recall. It was like let's say I have 4 to 5 companies in my mind, and they have a job description that is not like completely involve different industries, not specific to one. And let's say I am the only thing that aligns my CV with them is might be the communication part that is highlighted in my CV. So it's like if I want to tailor that. So initially, what you said, I was just I missed that. What you said is like we should put the JD and all the possible prospects of what exactly we have in us, or like as per the job description, what we can align with. That we have to put in ChatGPT with the job description, right? So that we don't have to make the CV again and again. That is what you were saying, right?
Um, you will still have to make the CV again and again. What I'm trying to
Okay.
tell you is that it saves you a lot when the document is your source of information, which you're giving AI, right? The job description is the source for the output that you want to get. So you require two things to make this work. You need the tool, you need the source of information which is you, then you need the source of information which is for the recruiter. And then you use the tool to align both together. That makes your process faster to identify the keywords that will actually match. That way you're not forcing keywords. That way you're not investing a lot of time to tailor your applications again and again and again for the hundreds of applications. I do have another hack in which I don't even recommend people to apply for hundreds of applications, but because of the sake of this call, this is that one pointer that I wanted to share with you, because I know a lot of you, while you're in that space of unemployment, or you're looking for jobs, or looking to upskill yourself, or even change your career trajectory, this is a challenge that most people face. So this is one way in which you can actually align where the words within your CV are ATS approved. Then now all you have to worry about is making sure that it's formatted correctly, and it's where the value is within 400 to 500 words to submit your application before you actually have your cover letter where all the keywords are aligning based on what you have done and not what the job description is telling you. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, actually, one
Thumbs
more
up
thing,
if
like if we can just do a small demo, let's say a small demo of, creating a CV right now. Like it's like not now, like if in future, if we have some time, I know we are very short on time, it's around 13 minutes only left. But it's like if, we can just have a small, like basic CV creation, let's say, like, where we have the
yeah.
job description and we have what we have done exactly, and then how we align that. If that we can do on someday, on a call. So that would also, be very helpful just to get a clear idea. Because what happens is when we use the words and, the words that are, that the ATS wants to see to get a good score for your CV. If we can do that, like how many times that word should appear, because I'm using this application that is Fiverr. So Fiverr has a 1100 or 1200 rupees of subscription. So what it does is it has on the side panel, it has all the ATS score, and it keeps recommending use these, his, has, why not, these things you should need to use in your particular JD everywhere, so that it gets triggered, the ATS gets triggered to 100% score. So that is how I tailored my CV actually. And then there was some
Okay.
recommendations also that was told me. I'm so sorry, I just set this up. The recommendation was that, as you being a marketing student, what you should do is you should align your customer survey, whatever role you have done in your company, in certain aspect in that way that it aligns with your marketing. So that is how when I started to align it, I started receiving calls from a lot of companies.
Okay. So again, something that we mentioned earlier as well, and your case is a bit different because you have a background of finance and operations, and then you're eventually trying to move into the domain of marketing, right? So
Yes,
it's
yes.
yes. So in terms of how can you use the information of how you've translated that information in finance and then move that to align it with marketing is a fair outcome that you want to achieve, but 100% is not realistic. It's more like you're force keywords in to, so when you say I'm trying to get 100% score. So this is an approach which I generally recommend people not to do, is try to get a score online. Yes, because now you'll use recommended keywords, and you might make a CV that probably gets you the call that you want. But now, how are you going to tackle everything that comes after that? So again, Tar, this is something definitely I can look at you separately, and even the demo, I would be happy to sit with people individually when they reach out to me on LinkedIn. All you could do is send me a CV and then probably a job description, and I'd be happy to review your CVs for you. This is why some Tahir, you were one of the people who sent their CV, so I did get an opportunity to look at your CV and take a deep dive into everything. But for the sake of this conversation and for the sake of time, um, that's something we can do separately. Is that something that would work for you?
Yes, yes, sure. Sure.
Yeah, and we're connected on LinkedIn, so I'd be happy to help you there as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for the suggestion. It is definitely something in terms of this was just a hack we had, and that's why there's no real demo. But ideally, when we do these workshops in person, we would make everyone build their own CVs on the spot, and then it would just make things easier where I'm not sitting and answering Q&As. So it's definitely something that we will look at for the future when we have a workshop that's in person where I can physically see your CVs and we could build a fresh one in that day. That's the whole idea of we came up with when it came to build it in a day. However, since today was the first day of Ramadan and most of the people wouldn't be able to make it, that's the reason why we are trying to pack this information for you within one webinar. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get towards trying to wrap up this session, and this was the final thing that we had. I tried to cover the formatting in terms of the doubts that you all had. I tried to cover the keywords in terms of your doubts that you all had. Then even in terms of the profile picture, whether it came to the PDFs, when it came to how the system actually passes the information that we have within the ATS system. Before I move on to close the session, does anyone have any doubts and questions that they would want to answer? So if I cannot answer it right now, we can give you something that could work for you beyond the session. Yes, Reed.
Okay, I have one question. It's about CV, but also about applying for a job. Okay, so there's two things or two ways I'm thinking about, which is the first one is to apply to every job that you can do, and whether it's like whether you like it or not, but you can do it. So you have experience and not stay unemployed for a long time. And the second one is to just apply for the job that you really want and align with your, final goal or final dream job and things like that. The one that's gonna give you a real experience, because time is valuable. You cannot just waste it on jobs that are not related to your dream job. So which one do you, suggest or prefer or, support more?
Can you help me repeat the two options? So there's one is applying for the job, which would probably not align with your career later. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes, yes.
And the one is you constantly trying to find that job to align with your dream career.
Yes.
So you remember the exercise I told you to build your future CV?
Yes.
So the reason why I told you to do that, because this also helps you clarify the path you would want within your roadmap. So if this is your point A and this is where you are, and if this is where you want to be, right, there'll be a lot of gaps that you would need to close. Maybe this job role that you don't like or does not align with your future covers those skill gaps,
Oh.
right? And then
Yes.
if you can be a project manager. So maybe if you're, for example, now, like Jason mentioned, he's an engineer. Right now, he probably doesn't have a lot of opportunities within that to try project management. But how can he look at what he's doing right now within his university space and use that to pick up the skills that he requires to reach that eventual goal? Right? You should, experience is such a myth to a lot of people. How can you show evidence of experience is what we look at. So then, rather than looking at it as a job, think of what experience you're going to get out of that role and how that can translate into the final roadmap. But to answer your question, you need to make sure that you do that future vision that you see for yourself and that CV that you see for yourself. And then based on that, you can close all the gaps that you have. Because now you're conscious about all the things that you have to do to close those gaps, and you're conscious about what you want to put on your CV in the future. You're not just doing an internship, getting rid of 3 months, and then be like, oh, I did this, and just to show that you have experience to fill up your CV. You're less concerned about the words in your CV. You're more concerned about the actions you need to take to achieve that dream outcome.
Yes.
Right. So it's really important how we look at how we look at our CV, how we look at our career. For example, like Tahir mentioned that I want to get 100% score. Like, what is the value of that 100% score? Yes, it can get your application through, but can you really do everything that's in that 100%? You want to work on looking at it in long term, right? In terms of, okay, can I actually, if I'm say getting into marketing with a finance background, how is my analytical skills with finance going to be correlated to, say, search engine optimization in marketing? Right? And this is just me giving an example. And the same thing would apply, say, with Jason. Today he's an engineer and he would want to change their complete career trajectory. Now he would get 100% score, but how is his current skill that he has right now translating into the roles that he wants to apply in the future?
It's
Right?
always been about our dream job and then filling the gap by the jobs that good, which is help us to tolerate our CV to these jobs and then go to the process. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jason?
It's more of a certain experience I had one time. I tried to apply for internship in Australia,
Okay.
and I got into interview process. Everything was done, but sadly I didn't get selected. And I sort of knew the hiring manager back then, and I asked him for what reason was I, not selected.
Hmm.
And he said everything was fine except they select they like to select people who are, the citizens of the country or someone with a, permanent resident status. Since I'm someone with a visa, I'm basically one of the last options. So how's there any way, to get past that?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that last part, please? You
Oh, no, so
mentioned
like
you were not citizen of a country, and that's the reason why.
they selected another candidate. That's why. So they took that spot from mine.
Okay.
So, as a person who's just a visa holder, what way can you just get past through, to not get through such problems, you could say?
So I would try to look at I would this is how I would reframe it. What you're discussing with me, is that a problem you can solve, or is it a circumstance you have to accept?
I'm thinking more of a problem to solve.
You're looking at it as a problem to solve.
Yeah.
Now, can you, in terms of citizenship, can is that something you can solve right now?
No.
Okay. So a problem is what's in your control. You can solve it immediately. A circumstance is something you'll have to accept till you can actually influence the problem. So now for me, the way I see it, this is not a problem you can solve. This is a circumstance. Right? Now, the reason I'm saying that is a circumstance, in terms of your citizenship, that's something you can influence eventually.
Yeah.
Can you influence it right now?
No.
So then what I would do is I'd probably start looking at, now the solution to this problem is applying for jobs that are probably not seeking citizenship.
No, that's the thing. In the descriptions, they say, even visa holders are fine. But in the end, when, when once the selection of process is done and then they spoke to the person, they said, this is the reason. So even though the job description does say that, in the end, the outcome is different.
So Jason, I'd love to have a chat with you on LinkedIn. Yeah. Just feel free to message me, because then the other way I would do it, remember when I told you your dream outcome, right? Do you want to be looking like the 10 other people? So now if there are 10 citizens out there and there's one Jason who's not a citizen, how can we make sure that Jason's profile is so powerful that I would rather hire Jason who's a visa holder than a citizen, right? And then the roadmap would be is to make you stand out, where you can take your circumstance, turn it into a problem where it's something that you can influence, right? Then the only thing you can influence here is the skills, the skill set, and the value that you bring to the company's table, so that they get what they want, irrespective of your citizenship. Yeah, I know this probably doesn't apply to the rest of the audience here. And is there any other questions? Okay, guys, it's 5 p.m. right now. I thank you all for being a part of this session. The way I see it is that this session, which we spoke about CVs, is probably not, the amount of time is not enough to sit and understand all the concerns. And probably the last question that we had from Jason, just like that, within the UAE market, we would all face different concerns because of which we're not getting jobs. I am very happy to help all of you. I help people on LinkedIn for free, and I try to respond within, say, 2 to 3 working days. And I spend my Sundays just responding to people on LinkedIn. I'm not very active on LinkedIn to post, but I'm very active on my inboxes, and I'm happy to help anyone who requires any sort of help in terms of your CV reviews, in terms of the doubts that you have in the way you're taking on interview questions. And I would be there in other events when we actually have these events physically to help you with whatever advice that you require. I know that I may have not able to serve some of the questions that you'll require at this point in time, but in any way that I could help, yeah, people are always here for you. Over to you, Afsha.
Hey guys, it was an amazing session. Thank you so much, Alistair, for taking us through all of that. Like I put in the chat box, there are just 3 things that I would want you guys to do before we wrap up this call. Number 1, put in your email addresses, which most of you have, except Marshall and Manish. If you guys could also put it up, then we'll have your details. We'd like to send you something that we call a jobs kit, just to boost you guys, boost your journey to be able to build a CV and much more things just directly on email, and please refrain from sharing it around with others. We've kept it very exclusive only for you guys here on this call. Number two, we have a youth career community. If you guys are not already a part of it, then please join in through the link that's in the chat box. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, these are events that we do every single Saturday. And so each and every event is an opportunity you guys can bank on. And we'd love for you guys to be the first ones to know about it, and you'll know it through the community itself. Just request to join and we'll let you in soon. And lastly, if you guys have any other further help that you guys would require, I've put up my number there on the chat box, and you can just directly WhatsApp me anything that you would want help with. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, for getting on this call. And if you guys have connected with Alistair online, then you can directly message him on LinkedIn as well. That would be an amazing opportunity for you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Thank
This
you
was
so
really
much.
helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Guys, the jobs toolkit will probably answer some of your questions and FAQs and all the do's and don'ts and self-reflection checklists that you'll need to do before submitting your application. So most of the things that we couldn't discuss out here will definitely be there in the email documents that Afsha will send with you, and it's absolutely free for you all to access. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this.